Remember, all the hairs on our head will be blessed. Some of us have more blessing than others. A verse in the epistle today caught my attention. So by our baptism into his death, we were buried, but with him, so that Christ was raised from the dead by the Father's glorious power, we too should begin living a new life. So by our baptism into his death, we were buried by him, buried with him, so that as Christ was raised from the dead by the Father's glorious power, we too should begin living a new life. What should that new life look like? New life is not all peaches and cream, all easy going. In fact, new life in Christ's kingdom may be full of persecution and strife. The breaking in of God's kingdom disturbs the status quo, upsets the powers of oppression. Those in charge don't want you to love others. They don't want freedom. They want control and order. Everyone marching to the same drum. The powers want you to live in fear. Christ warns his apostles that the powers, both the state and the church, do not like what he says or what his apostles will say. In Matthew's gospel today, Jesus warns about persecution by the powers. But he also says to be open in our actions and in the way we live. Oppression can't stand the truth of love. Do not be afraid, God will protect you. Every hair on your head has been counted. How then shall I live? I am sure I've told you this story, but it's worth telling again. When you drive up to the gatehouse at Northern Nevada Correctional Center, the first thing you notice is the razor wire around the top of all the fences. The next experience you have is walking through a metal detector and being frisked by a correctional officer. That's always fun. Then you walk through a series of doors and gates to get into the yard. I remember the first time I went in, especially the second door. It's a heavy metal door, locked electronically by someone you can't see, and very loud when it slams behind you. When I went through it, I had the feeling of being alone, very alone, even though there was 20 of us coming in. I worked that weekend, but I didn't go back inside for 5 years. I was afraid of that door and what was behind it. Here's a part of a song attributed to St. Louis Jesuits. And don't worry, I won't sing it. Do not be afraid. You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words to foreign men, and they will understand. You shall see the face of God and live. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. I didn't have a bad experience the weekend I went in, but I do remember that feeling at the gatehouse door, and it unnerved me. We were warned by authorities that the men inside were out to use us, to make friends with us so they could co-opt us into bringing in drugs and take messages in and out. I'm sure this happens, but how, as Christians, can we not make relationships with the guys? How can we not love them as fellow human beings? The Jesuit song says you will see the face of God and live. I will also tell you that the face of God inside is not really pretty, rather rough, in fact. He shakes a lot and comes in different colors. His hair is long and his teeth are missing. He has lots of tattoos and wears blue clothing. How then shall I live? Beside telling the apostles not to be afraid, Matthew also says to declare, I follow Christ. Declare that openly to others. Is this like saying, my thoughts and prayers are with you? Kind of meaningless, isn't it? Unless you follow it with actions. Loving actions, actions of grace. Jesus says, anyone who does not take up his cross and follow in my footsteps is not worthy of me. He's not shaming us when he says this. He's not adding more pressure in our lives. He's saying, follow me and live in my world of grace and love. How then shall you live? Do you have a calling that brings you up to a heavy metal door? Where in your life can you bring more loving actions in the world? How about just saying something nice to the server that brings you your meal? Or better yet, leave the server a decent tip. Or maybe support a decent wage for that server. Look around. Jesus is in every loving, grace-filled action that we do. And blessed are your poor, for the kingdom shall be theirs. Blessed are you that weep and mourn, for one day you shall laugh. And if wicked men insult and hate you, all because of me, blessed, blessed are you. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest.